If Fickell gets fired, who can save Wisconsin football? Which coach would you hire to save Wisconsin, to bring them back to prominence if Luke Fickell doesn't work out? I'm not saying he will, but since it's a conversation, I want to bring this one up. And this is a viewer question asked by LSU VS Far. Nebraska fan, love to engage with him, and you can engage with me too if you click the link in the description and join the Discord server, which is totally free, doesn't sign you up for anything. And you, like LSU VS Far, can ask me a question in the hashtag YouTube mailbox channel, totally free. I'll make a video on it, like I am out of this question. And also make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment your thoughts down below, and again, give the video a like. It'll help us get into the algorithm. And if you hear a tornado siren in the background, my apologies, but it's also urging you, on top of taking shelter, it is urging you to do all those things I just asked you to do, which are totally free. So let's get into this. And I want to give you some names that I wrote down before I went live. About 10 minutes before I went live, I wrote down some of these names off the top of my head. And there's probably more. And I think in a month I'll circle back to this and make a longer video on it. But some coaches that I think would fit Wisconsin well: Chris Klieman, Matt Campbell, Kenny Dillingham, Bret Bielema round 2. Think of Rich Rod round 2, Scott Frost round 2, and Barry Odom. Only if Odom succeeds at Purdue. If Odom succeeds at Purdue, whether that's this year and they somehow go bowling, or over 2 years he has a good amount of success, if you can win at Purdue, you can win at Wisconsin. Guys, like, come on. And there's probably some others. Off the top of my head, I think if Jonathan Smith doesn't work out at Michigan State, that would be a good hire. I think Brent Key would be good. I know Key is Georgia Tech alumni, and that's his school, and he's more of a Southern guy. But his identity of run the ball, as he said famously in that Southern Georgia accent after that upset against Florida State, that fits Wisconsin's identity, but it's modernized with Buster Faulkner and the offense that he runs. And I think like Fran Brown. Fran Brown's from the South, former Georgia assistant, but he's having success at Syracuse. I think he's building a good culture, and I think that they're going to find a way to win 6 or 7 games even with that tough schedule. I think I would love Fran Brown at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a good, proud program. They are. They're a top 25 program nationally. They are one of the better jobs in the Big Ten. Not one of the best, but one of the better jobs. That's why they got Luke Fickell, someone who could have went to jobs that were better than Wisconsin if he waited, or if he wanted to leave Cincinnati at the time. So those are some names I wanted to shoot out. I think the best fits out of all of those, the most realistic, I think Chris Klieman would be good. Wisconsin has far more resources than Kansas State. Klieman has shown before with his record against Oklahoma that he knows how to punch above his weight class. He's competed with Texas before when Sarkisian was there in 2022 and 2023. Matt Campbell does more with less. And while if you hire Matt Campbell as Wisconsin, I don't think you'd win the Big Ten. You may not be able to win the Big Ten anyway, unless you can land a really high-end, top-end coach that people just don't know about and you really invest in football. A lot of things would have to go right, in my mind, for Wisconsin to win the Big Ten. It would be easier for Wisconsin in the future to reach the playoff, I think, 2 or 3 times than for it to win the Big Ten once. It would be easier to do that. Bret Bielema round 2, I think that typically a second go-around at a school doesn't work. But then again, he got Illinois to win 10 games and then 8 games 2 years before last season. And this year they're being talked about as a college football playoff contender. I mean, come on. He's a good cultural guy, knows how to put together a good staff. I think does more with less, especially at the QB position. Loves physical football. There's a reason he succeeded at Wisconsin before. I love Klieman, though. Love Klieman. And then Kenny Dillingham, that was another name I brought up. Arizona State has a lot of potential. They have some resource potential that may even surpass Wisconsin's potential resources. But playing in the Big Ten is more challenging. It's a tougher conference, and you're going to get more resources as a Big Ten school than a Big 12 school. So There's also a chance that everything I said about Arizona State possibly having better resources is the inverse of reality, and it's Wisconsin that has more resources. Dillingham's young. Dillingham would modernize Wisconsin's approach, but I think do it in the right way, and he would definitely bring over some players if Fickell were to be fired after this year, or even after 2026. He'd have some players to bring over in 2026 or 2027 if, again, hypothetically, Fickell doesn't work and they want to hire a new coach. For Brent Key, I'd love that hire. I think Key and Dillingham, along with Klieman, would be the best hires. Whittingham, if he were 10 years younger, would be the ultimate hire, but he doesn't want to leave Utah anyway, and he's too old. Matt Campbell, I mean, if you can get him, you can get him. He's finally figured out a little bit of Iowa State's Iowa problem in it. Wisconsin, he'd have so much more talent than he does at Iowa State. It would be easier for him to win 8-9 games every year and never have the 4 and 5 win, 6 win seasons he's had at Iowa State before when he has to rebuild. So those are just some names. Answering a question from LSUVS Far. Again, I appreciate you for asking that question. Fickell is 13-13, 8-10 in the Big Ten in 2 seasons at Wisconsin, and I would say he's certainly under pressure. I don't know if hot seat is appropriate, but I think he's under pressure. That is absolutely the case for sure. If he succeeds, and there's a part of me that still thinks he will. In fact, I'm leaning towards he will at least keep his job for a few more years than he'll be fired after this year or the year after that. But there is a chance this just doesn't work and it falls through and Fickell just wasn't a fit at Wisconsin. I think there are a lot of great names that could be Wisconsin's next head coach.